They're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you'll do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up? MCR family? Another daily edition of the show. Actually, this is like the second show today, so air horns for us. Us who are never active anymore, because we used to do like every day we had a show, right?
Yeah.
Or at least,
today.
Or at least I had a show every day, not you. I had a show every day.
Well, I was doing something.
No. But I meant on MCR.
Dang, you just calling me lazy? That's what's up, though. Hashtag get better friends. But anyway,
Hashtag get better friends.
This is Mixed Combat Radio with your host, Ann Walker.
There's so much to talk about today. Oh my, I cannot wait, guys. I'm Matt, the Hipster Hunter. Obviously, this is MCR. Gonna be talking McGregor, Cerrone, Khabib, Tony. Dana White talking about Floyd Mayweather and Zuffa boxing.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah, guys, we gotta talk about that shit, unfortunately. Plus, like Nick Diaz with that interview with Erhawani. I have not done an MMA show since then, so like we have to talk about that as well.
It's been that long since you've done an MMA show?
It's been a very long time.
Oh, okay.
And talk to the mic. Talk into the mic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. It sounds so much better and richer.
Just all the sex appeal coming through on the speakers right there. Yo, you're tuning in to Mixed Combat Radio. It's your host, DJ Easy Dick.
I'm joined by the recent free agent in the MMA industry, Mr. Anthony Walker himself. Again, free agent, highest bidder out there. This guy's services out there as one of the best journalists in the sport.
Thank you, sir.
It's right there. Anyone wants it, hit him up. DM's open.
The DMs are open. They are open. But thank you for that shining introduction. Always happy to join you, man. So
Yes.
we enjoy working together. It's always good to get an MMA show in with my man. So let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. Obviously, let's get right to it because we've been gone, at least in terms of an MMA show on MCR for some time. So let's get right to the news, which has been dominated largely, of course, as expected, by Conor McGregor announcing his return to fight Donald Cerrone at the main event of UFC 246. No interim belt on the line, fighting at 170. Obviously, there are two pending rape investigations into Conor McGregor. Seem to have a obvious black cloud over the announcement of this fight, him just fighting, period. And sort of a two-part question. Do you think that that UFC should be in the business of Conor McGregor right now and promoting him right now with those pending rape investigations? And for a moment, tabling that if we can, which is insane to say, thoughts on McGregor-Cerrone as a matchup? One that I said was the right tune-up matchup to have if he was going to come back.
All right, so let's talk about the fight itself before we dive deeper into it, because that obviously is going to be a deeper, darker conversation. As far as the matchup of Donald Cerrone welcoming Conor McGregor back to activity, it's perfect. It's perfect, and I think it's perfect for both men. and this is an angle that I think a lot of people are ignoring. Donald Cerrone is a certified star in his own right. Definitely not the level of McGregor, but he's a guy who has paid his dues. He's a guy who fights so frequently, and fans love him. Everywhere he goes, it's fanfare and it's fun. So if anyone deserves this big money fight, if anyone deserves the spotlight, when you have a BMF title being contested between gentlemen with the records, and no disrespect to Nate Diaz or Jorge Masvidal, when you've got that level of big money into guys who are otherwise considered journeymen, man,
especially in other combat sports, at least.
Yeah, dude, you give the bag to Donald Cerrone. Give Donald Cerrone the chance to have this big pay-per-view main event. Let him do that, and I think he's earned that. Now, as far as for Conor McGregor, this is the perfect fight for him because you don't want to necessarily have an indestructible machine like Justin Gaethje in front of you when you've had this level of a layoff. And then on top of that, the trajectories of where they both have gone, wins and loss-wise speaking lately. McGregor was last seen tapping out to Khabib Nurmagomedov, and before that losing to Floyd Mayweather in another sport, albeit, but a loss nonetheless. Yes. And Donald Cerrone was last seen getting knocked out by Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson.
4 of his last 6 fights have ended via knockout loss.
Exactly. So just from a pure competitive standpoint, it makes more sense. And I'm so confused by the backlash about why this wasn't Justin Gaethje.
I think you have a section of fans that don't understand tune-up fights in MMA. Like, I really legitimately think that, and there's a huge section of MMA fans that come from a pro wrestling side where if big matches are there to be made, you make the big matches. And if you watch, WWE or AEW, there's weekly content that you see sort of big matches every week, and you see people continually match up against each other. I think there's an audience that comes from that section of combat sports that expects the same in MMA, and they've sort of been catered to in that aspect, right?
Right.
For a long time, there's been that aspect or that sentiment or narrative that there's no easy fights in the UFC. That once you get to that top 10, you are in that meat grinder, so to speak, until you retire. And in people's minds, Cerrone is a fighter outside that, which is weird, because to me, he's not really outside that top 10, top 15 range.
He's a contender in 2 weight classes.
So I don't even understand. Like, I think there's an expectation of elite fighters in MMA to always fight elite competition, regardless of losing, regardless of time off. There's no concept of recuperating the body, recuperating the mind for combat.
And getting your timing back, and very simple things that boxing understands.
And I think, not to throw shade on this person, I think, I really respect this fighter, but like Dominic Cruz, to a large degree, has sort of pushed that narrative that like ring rust is a myth. That doesn't exist. Yeah. No, it does. It absolutely does.
Just Dominic Cruz is an anomaly. That's what that's.
Yeah,
more
he's an alien.
Than anything. Yeah,
he's not a human being. Okay,
and even though he was saying that ring rust isn't a thing, he still gave himself a pretty bad injury in the return fight against Dillashaw. So even for him, no, that's not.
Even the Masvidal fight, he was out for another year and a half after that. I want to say.
Yeah, he tore something else after that fight. So
this is, combat sports in similar ways to maybe like certain positions in like NFL football. That the high impact rate means that your window of success or time in the sport is very limited, and to prolong that, boxers routinely take tune-up fights in between fights to prolong that, so they don't have to take a hard camp, they don't take a hard fight, don't take punishment, but still get a paycheck, still make ends meet,
stay active,
yeah. And in MMA, that idea is just completely lost. Now, I think in a month's time, when we get closer to this fight, I think people are going to forget about it because these two guys are going to have great back and forths on press conferences and promos. Like, this fight's going to sell itself regardless in ways that are probably even easier than a Justin Gaethje fight, which I know the hardcore fandom wanted, but this fight sells more to the casuals.
Yeah, like to say that, a little while back you were saying like about the big fights. This is a bigger fight, at least when you're talking from a business standpoint. This is a bigger fight, just plain and simple, because you have 2 people. that everybody recognizes, as opposed to one person that everybody
Or
recognizes.
you have one person that everyone recognizes and one that's been such a long-standing UFC fixture that he has more drawing power within the fandom than Justin Gaethje, who has
by far.
Who has how many fights in the UFC? 4 or 5?
6 or something like that. But he
6 now.
I think so. I think so. But even like look at the fact that Donald Cerrone's he has like major endorsements. Budweiser. He's on those P3 protein pack.
Yeah, he is. I see those commercials all the time.
Yeah. So this is a guy who is front and center out there all the time.
No, I just think that he cowboy.
Yeah.
Guy the cowboy
yeah,
hat.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's highlighted Fox cards. He's highlighted. Has he? No, I don't think he highlighted a Spike TV card. I don't know. He's highlighted WEC cards. He's highlighted cards or been co-main events in essentially every era of modern mixed martial arts. It feels like.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, yeah, this dude's been around. He's cut his teeth already.
He's been a perennial top 10 lightweight and welterweight for the last decade.
Yeah.
Maybe decade plus a little bit now. Maybe 2008ish. He was around in the WEC.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
But circling back to McGregor in terms of should he be fighting? Should the UFC be in the business of Conor McGregor right now? Can they be if they navigate it in just a more transparent way?
That's kind of the stance I take on. Like, because this is such a tricky thing to navigate. We do have to keep in mind that these are allegations that are being investigated. Now, if we're gonna go with the innocent until proven guilty model, well then until the guy has his day in court, all right, he shouldn't be stopped from making a living.
Yeah.
But when you're in the violence business,
and your crime is violence,
and you're on tape punching an old man, and there have been rumors about bad behavior in other ways. Let's not forget there was apparently that hit out on him from some sort of Irish mafia for beating up a drug dealer in the bars. So we've heard.
I forgot about that story.
We've heard a lot of stories. We've heard a lot of stories. So like at some point somebody's got to pump the brakes and be like, something wrong here. Something is wrong. I don't know what the solution is. I'll say this. And forgive me if this is too loose of a stance to take, but I just want some sort of definitive statement from McGregor himself. Now, I know he can't say certain things because the legal process is moving, and I'm sure his lawyers have advised him to stay quiet about certain things. If he said a simple like, hey, I really want to talk about this, and I'll tell you everything when my lawyers say I can, I'm almost willing to be like, okay, we'll rock with it. Mm-hmm. To just act like it's not happening is that's ugly, man. That's to steal a phrase from the Joe Budden podcast. That's nasty.
Nasty.
I'm not sure I can get down with that.
To add to that, I know it took for the first investigation 6 months for a reporter to ask Dana White about it. Please, one of you reporters out there, and I know some of you listen to this show, and you guys do the constant media run of every fight week. Ask Dana White. Okay, some of you guys that are more big time than obviously us or anyone else, like you have the power, you have the leverage to ask these questions. Ask in a polite manner, PC manner if you want, however you want to frame it, but ask the question.
The question needs to be asked. Dana did address it at a scrum after the Contender Series some weeks back, and he said, hey, it just looks bad. He said it looks bad or something like that, and he gave a pretty blanket statement, no real information to glean, and I don't think you're really going to glean a lot of information, but you have to say something. And now I wish
official statement. I know his agent, what's
Auditor.
He put out a statement, but again, not McGregor, not the UFC.
Yes,
just the optics of that seem off,
and it was such a vanilla statement. I want some more passion behind what you're saying. A guy whose brand is built on passion, a guy who was applauded in some ways for his overuse of passion, throwing a dolly at a bus.
Some would say promoted that way. Oh, that literally was promoted.
That was yes.
Oh,
yes.
I forgot.
They had like a
promos
graphic of glass breaking on the commercial. Yes. So so I want something, man. The thing is, you can't have shit like this just hanging out there. You can't. And especially, and I hate to even talk about this because, like, dude, just Walt Harris's Instagram post, Thanksgiving morning, man. I was reading that just full on crying, man.
Oh, yeah.
Tears rolling down my face, like, oh my god. When we're in a time where violence against women is like affecting the sport. You know, granted, it's an auxiliary thing, but it's still a very real issue that we are seeing. Like, you can't have a guy who's accused of that level of violence against a woman or two women to just fight and nobody say nothing.
And not to the degree yet, because we don't know, of course, yet. But John Copenhaver, you know, and the War Machine, Chrissy
Chrissy Mack, I think.
Chrissy Mack story.
Yeah.
That is a prime, or Greg Hardy. I mean, like, there is Thiago Silva.
Right.
I mean, there's a long history of violence against women within this sport.
And we still, and actually was like a couple days after the unfortunate news of Nia Blanchard's death being confirmed, Cindy Danwa was beaten up by an ex-boyfriend. So, like, this is violence against women is a very real problem, and I'm not saying that it's a specific problem to mixed martial arts, but when mixed martial arts is sanctioned violence, you might, even just for the pure optics, even if you don't give a shit about human beings, just for the pure optics, you might want to address these things. You might want to put some energy toward making sure this isn't a problem on a regular basis,
and
man.
To be honest,
or it's being promoted. Fuck.
And to be honest, you should give a fuck as a human being.
Yeah.
Like, you should care.
Like, so the only reason why I say that is because, unfortunately, there is this sort of like mentality does seem to creep about when certain fighters are on the docket.
Yeah.
This contingent of people who seem to be totally devoid of any sort of human empathy, any sort of moral obligation to society, that just want to say, oh, it's only about the fights.
Incels.
Yeah, fights and money. Like, okay, fam. Like, but this is a real world we're living in.
Yeah.
That I think we should give a shit about, especially when our business is violence in particular.
And forgive me, but the fighter in the UFC that was being up by her was a husband or boyfriend, and she was out.
Rachel Ostovich.
Her as well, but thank you for reminding me of that case. Because that brought her out of a fight. That literally affected the sport.
Yes.
You know, like, there's no way you can argue, like, that those cases did not actually affect mixed martial arts. Women that fight in the sport were harmed in vicious crimes. Alexandra Lee? The neo-Nazi.
Yes, that's right. Yes, right. Yeah.
Boyfriend?
Andrea Lee.
What was her name?
Andrea Lee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Andrea Lee. Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, this issue is one that doesn't seem to really be talked about, doesn't really seem to be addressed by the institutions and entities that really are in power in the sport, a la UFC, ESPN, even minor other promotions like Bellator and DAZN. This is a conversation that could really be more of an issue that is pressed. And, you know, when we talk about the UFC creating an entire PD policy as basically a way to protect themselves from lawsuits. Mm-hmm. They can't have any sort of policy or about violence towards women. Or I know that the fighter code of conduct, but that's been largely thrown out.
Yeah, they did, but it doesn't seem to be being adhered to now. Like, I don't like, I do want to once again acknowledge, these are allegations and innocent until proven guilty, but you still have to address the elephant in the room.
Absolutely.
Before we just carry on like nothing's going on. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, if you're out there saying, like, I'd rather watch this stuff on the news, this is the news.
Yeah.
So that's what you're here for, to watch the news.
Yeah, this is fight news. So
I just don't understand this at all.
It's because there are a lot of stupid motherfuckers out there. That's what's up. So
yes.
Yeah. Yes. But you know, it is what it is, man. Like there's a certain level of knucklehead that just has to be dealt with when you are involved in combat sports, unfortunately. And yeah.
Yeah. And like the sad part is that like I know in the MMA world, for a lot of people that are just purely MMA heads, they don't understand. Like they kind of have it easier than other combat sports, to be honest. The way women are treated within the UFC and MMA is far better than, let's say, boxing or kickboxing.
2-minute rounds. Fuck out of here.
I mean, women's, from a rule set standpoint in boxing, are treated as a second-class fighter. You don't have that in MMA. Like that in and of itself is a huge difference. But there are massive changes that need to happen within MMA to properly address how women are treated within the sport, violence towards them. And the biggest fighter of the sport, basically, probably the biggest fighter in combat sports at this moment, I would argue, other than maybe Floyd Mayweather, is out there having 2 pending investigations. That needs to be addressed. That needs to be talked about, more so than in any other case even, because he is the biggest figure. He's the one that's going to get, he's going to have the easy walk through ESPN. He's going to have the easy walk through media because everyone's going to be scared to address this issue.
You want him there. So, yeah, and let's and I will be more than willing to acknowledge that the sport is better with Conor McGregor around. It's more exciting. It's more interesting. Period. Like his presence is more interesting, and I welcome his return. But I'd like to see some real world issues that he seems to be mixed up with, addressed in some sort of real capacity before we just act like it's not going on.
Absolutely agree. So let's move on. Tony Ferguson has inked his new contract, or inked the contract period, to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov for UFC 249. April 18th is the date and the pay-per-view they're looking for. It's the 5th time. 5th time's the charm. Yeah.
I guess if that's a phrase, like
it's not a phrase.
It is now.
It's
so thing is, man, I'm really. How do you not get excited about Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov finally fighting? But will they finally fight? I don't know. The thing is, whenever you announce a fight in mixed martial arts, and I think in the very last piece that was published for Sherdog.com, my mailbag column, old mailbag column, RIP, ask
RIP, hold on. Or it's okay, Ant. It's okay.
Oh man, it's good, fam.
It's okay. It happens. It happens to the best of us.
It happens.
Yeah, there was like 10 of us that got let go. It's okay.
Yeah, man. So, I'm excited for it. But it's really hard to get so excited about any fight in mixed martial arts that's announced 5 months before they step in the cage. And this fight especially, I fully won't let myself get excited until 5 minutes before.
It's such a good fight though.
And even then, man,
it's the guy
what
to
are the
beat
chances that Khabib slips on something backstage and hits his head like Kevin Randleman?
Well, first off, I mean, the track record, it seems right now, it's going to be Tony more than Khabib, I feel like. Khabib hasn't been consistent lately. He's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, they both got their moments, man.
In the
lately?
4 times. Yes. Because they've been... first fight was scheduled, remember, in 2014.
Dude, so what? Tony...
That's 5 years ago.
Tony blew out his knee and came back like 2 days later or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's nuts. Like, so I trust Tony's healing factor more than anything. But man, I just can't get excited for this yet. I can't. But this is what I'm.
It's such a good fight, and be excited with me,
dude. Like,
it's the best fight in combat sports right now.
I've been burned too many times. Sorry, I've just been burned too many times. And right now we're seeing the MMA gods are making us pay. We are sacrificing already. Ben Henderson's out of the Michael Chandler fight.
They've been smiting matchups as we speak.
Oh my God, they're just striking them down, man.
You wanted this one? Okay.
The
next 5 fights you're looking forward to, gone.
I have a feeling Jose Aldo's about to be a sacrificial lamb to the MMA gods in order for this to happen.
Tangent. There's no way he makes 135, right?
I hope he doesn't. Because
no, see, I don't know about that. If he doesn't, that means he really actually gets hurt, and like that's concerning.
No, if it's like, okay, you can't do this, and they stop him, I'll be happy.
Ah, man.
But anyway, so yeah, man. As far as the fight itself, yes, this is the best fight that can be put on the mixed martial arts right now, in my opinion.
Like I said, it's the best fight. If it goes off, it might be the best fight in combat sports of 2020.
Oh yes.
Period. Like you include like Wilder Fury 2. If they can somehow make like Spence Crawford at the end of the year, this has a claim.
Masvidal Canelo. Like,
stop. I will slap the shit out of you if you mention that again. No. That's not a topic we're going to discuss on this show.
No, God, no. I shouldn't even joke like that.
No. Because at least Canelo's like, no, fuck that.
Yeah, it's like, really?
These guys make pennies compared to me. What are you talking about? You're trying to get my clout? Fuck off. What was I going to talk about? I forget.
We were talking about Tony and Khabib.
I know, but back to it being the biggest fight of 2020. If it comes to fruition, it's the best fight in combat sports in 2020. Yay or nay?
Biggest fight in terms of what?
No, not biggest. Best.
Best fight?
Sorry. If I said biggest, I meant best.
Here's the thing that I'm afraid of now. We've built this fight up for how long? You said since 2014 when it was first booked.
It might not be a great fight.
That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid that the expectation, besides the fact that it just may not happen, I am so afraid that the expectations have been built up so much that this fight ends up being a dud. Or at least a dud in comparison to what it could have been.
Now, do you think that McGregor Khabib was a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, was that fight as exciting as it could have been, or as it felt? You know, in terms of actual in-cage action,
it felt.
Or was the suspense? These two guys just in the cage. Was that enough for you?
The thing is, it was too much of a scene to separate just the fight itself from everything surrounding it. The story was too big. It was too much history between the two. It was.
Is that not going to be here where it just feels like this is a moment? It feels like it's something special.
Yes, to the hardcores, but there's a big difference when literally the biggest star in sports is making his return, and they got green smoke coming out the floor, and you know, I was at that fight, you know, and being like feeling the energy and.
Yeah, you were at that one. I wasn't. That's cool.
Oh, well, you were at other fights that I wasn't at, so it's all good. You're at some big boxing matches.
Fuck boxing.
Asterisk, fix that. MMA.
You need to, I'm sure you can find a clip of somebody saying "fuck MMA."
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you can find that.
I can just make my own.
You can make your own drop. But yeah, like, so it's hard to separate the moment from the fight, and even the fight itself had dramatic moments. To see Khabib, who drop McGregor with a punch, was like, "Whoa, what the hell is going on?"
How do you see this fight being a dud then?
No, I don't think it will be a dud, but I'm saying I think the expectations have been built so high. Think about Chuck Liddell versus Wanderlei Silva.
That fight was amazing. No, I will. Okay.
No, I'm saying it was a good fight, but did it live up to the expectations of when it was supposed to first happen? No.
No, but I'll put it this way:
exactly.
As somebody that came into MMA when like UFC Unleashed was on Spike TV at like 10 p.m. or something like that, right?
No, they showed Unleashed all day long.
No. It was Cops most of the day.
Yeah, Cops and Unleashed.
Mansers. And then like there's a few other shows like
Thousand
Ways to Die
or something. Or
Blue Mountain High
Deadliest
or whatever.
Warrior and all
that show was amazing. Deadliest Warrior.
Yeah, that was my jam.
Yeah, I bought the video game. It was trash.
Oh, it was so garbage.
So bad.
I had it too.
But as somebody that came up in that era, that like UFC Unleashed was the shit I looked forward to after school because it was like whatever late night cartoons there was, and then like UFC Unleashed.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Liddell, Wanderlei Silva was something I caught on UFC Unleashed. I didn't catch it live on a fight night. I just due to live and growing up and being a kid.
Because we're of different age groups. So,
yeah.
So that's when I saw live.
That's when I caught on UFC Unleashed. And I was like, oh my god, this shit's amazing. And then I went like deep, like fucking sweaty ass deep dive on the computer into Wanderlei Silva and Pride. So like I think certain fights do have resonance, even if they don't have the resonance that they could have had. To be honest, like even like Mayweather Pacquiao, for example, a fight that should have happened 6 years before it did, or 5 years before it did. That fight still was the biggest combat sports fight of all time.
Yeah,
it still felt like a moment.
Felt like a moment, but the in-ring action was so not worth the hype. So I think it was such a distance that it's undeniable.
Yes, but that fight had a far easier path to being that sort of fight than, let's say, Khabib Tony, in my opinion.
But that's more so because of boxing in general, just how styles match up. So that's kind of inherent with boxing, that you will have more kind of long, drawn out, not necessarily aesthetically pleasing fights, especially when the Mayweather is part of the picture. That comes with the territory. Khabib and Tony, that doesn't come with the territory. And then also on top of that, this is a historically great fight. Tony Ferguson is on the best run in UFC lightweight history with
Arguably.
12 consecutive wins.
Arguably. I mean, you can say like Khabib has a better
No. I mean statistically, like
sure,
yeah,
the most wins,
the longest win streak in lightweight history, and then Khabib is undefeated and has made mincemeat of everybody he's fought, with the exception of Gleison Tebow, long ago. So
good fight.
Yeah, it was a very good fight.
And like Pat Healy for a moment.
Yeah,
which was really odd in retrospect thinking about it.
Pat Healy was dope though.
He had some moments.
Pat Healy was a very underrated fighter, but that's another story. So like those, like that's a historically great fight just in and of itself that should be enough to satisfy the bloodthirst of hardcore fans. And then you're talking about a fight that, unlike Mayweather Pacquiao, never got diminished due to losses while this buildup was taking place. Imagine like how big Mayweather Pacquiao would have been had Pacquiao not got floored by Marquez.
He rebounded fine with enough wins afterwards, I think. He did. We can go into his record right now and see.
No. I know he had wins after that, but like the image, just the image of seeing someone get shattered like that.
But
it takes the luster off the bigger fights.
But at the same time, it really didn't.
A boxing guy, definitely, you understand this concept.
I understand it, but not. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it.
That's because you're wrong.
Because the fight still ended up being the biggest pay-per-view fight of all time.
No, biggest is in terms of money, but we're talking about,
But it gets that way because people felt like it was a moment, regardless of the knockout.
Yeah, it was a moment because everybody. Well, never mind. You know what? We're going on too deep.
Like think about it doubled the last record. Think about how insane that is.
Oh no, it's certainly insane. But I'm saying that in this case with Tony and Khabib, there's nothing to diminish.
It does help that, yeah. But also, I mean, to take away from boxing, MMA is a sport where like taking losses and L's is far more acceptable.
Yeah, far more acceptable, but it's still cool when you don't take one. It's still really dope when you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's true, I guess. Yeah,
but also from a stylistic standpoint, this fight is really amazing because it's, and I know we talked about this in the build up to the Poirier fight. It's like you're trying to not to the same extent, but we're saying like you got to provide Khabib something different, some sort of different stimulus that we have not seen. Tony Ferguson, man, will attack off of his back with reckless abandon, and that's something he hasn't faced. He will try to slice you open off his back with elbows.
His volume on the feet.
Yeah, he's not a guy who ever takes a back step. He does weird things sometimes. Like, you got to give him different looks. And Khabib so far has handled every single style placed in front of him with relative ease. Losing only, maybe 2 rounds his entire UFC career?
Maybe 3.
Maybe 3. Yeah, depending on how you score the Tebow fight.
Yes.
Right. And then that third round on against McGregor.
Yeah.
And that's really it. That's the only, I guess, maybe the first Michael Johnson round.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Yes.
So yeah, we're talking about like the meeting of 2 really, really great fighters. I'm just not gonna emotionally invest myself into it until I see the cage door locked behind them and Bruce Buffer is standing in between them.
If this goes off without a hitch and it happens on April 18th, is it the most significant lightweight fight of all time?
From a competitive standpoint,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, not money.
Yeah, not from it is. It is because I think a win from either man has a very strong case for being the best UFC lightweight of all time. Very strong case.
And I mean, if you're Khabib, if you beat Tony in any sort of convincing fashion, how do you not rank him pound for pound number 1?
If you
like, it becomes really hard to make that argument.
So yeah, listen to the wins that these men will have had if whoever wins. So if Khabib wins, that means you have the scalp of Tony Ferguson. You got the scalp of Dustin Poirier. You got the scalp of Conor McGregor. You got the scalp of Rafael dos Anjos. You got the scalp of Michael Johnson. You've got the scalps of a lot of really, really good guys. And by the way, you just undefeated, period.
Yeah.
Pretty damn badass. Yeah. Aside from Ally Quinta too, another great name to have on your resume. Now, if you are Tony Ferguson and you win this fight, that means you got Khabib scalp. You got Donald Cerrone. You got Edson Barboza. You know what I'm saying? You got
your boy Kevin Lee.
You got Kevin Lee.
Your man's.
Kevin Lee is the homie.
Yo, Kevin Lee with the Gregor Gillespie knockout.
Oh, with the Instagram post after the Gregor Gillespie knockout. Yes.
Respect.
Yeah, respect.
We can finally rally around you now, Kevin
Can we
Lee.
get some air horns for Kevin Lee on that one?
Yes.
Yeah, man. So like, either man has a strong case. Anthony Pettis on Ferguson's resume.
You said RDA, right?
Josh Thompson, former Strikeforce champion.
Barboza. Both beat Tebow.
Yeah. I'm
a lot of common opponents too.
Yeah. We're talking about historic level of greatness between both men. So the winner has a very strong case. I'm not saying that the winner of this fight is the greatest lightweight in UFC history. I'm not going to jump off that ledge just yet. But it's the same thing I say, the same analogy I always use. If you tell me Redman is the greatest rapper of all time, I'm not sure if I agree, but I'm not going to argue with you.
I'll put it this way. The winner of this fight has a way stronger case to the greatest lightweight of all time in the UFC compared to Redman as the greatest rapper of all time.
Debatable. Okay.
No. I mean, who else would be in this conversation then?
The greatest rapper of all time?
No.
I thought we were about to go down the
No, and first off, I don't think Redman was even that high on your list, but
Redman was in my top 10.
I don't know about that.
It's my top 10, motherfucker.
But you don't remember off rip, do you? I don't remember my top 20
Well, I'm just assuming it was because
you want to be right about the argument.
Exactly.
I mean, who else is in the conversation for the greatest lightweight of all time in the UFC? I don't think really BJ Penn. You can really make an honest claim that he's the greatest lightweight of all time.
The thing is, if we separate if
you want to make a pioneer wing, make a pioneer wing.
Or we're saying greatest champion in lightweight history. So then those are other conversations to be had. Those are conversations that overlap but aren't necessarily the same. So BJ Penn has a case for being the greatest lightweight champion in UFC history. Maybe not the greatest lightweight altogether.
Okay, well, even with that semantic argument, let's say Khabib wins this against Tony Ferguson. You can't make the claim that BJ Penn is a better champion.
No, not necessarily. Like the thing is, I just haven't devoted myself enough to the concept
to think about it.
Yeah, to really flesh out the argument.
Like the only people for especially champion that narrow view of the argument.
Ben Henderson and Frankie Edgar.
I mean, it's a very limited pool, to be honest, just because the lightweight division's still a relatively young division. Jay in the chat saying you're a BJ Penn hater. I'm sorry, guys.
I just hate his alcohol tolerance.
Another guy with allegations of violence towards women. Just want to put that out there. But digressing from that point, I think again, like there's going to be a time in the next 10 years where we have that conversation where guys that fought from like the late 90s to like the mid 2000s, you're no longer in the conversation with the modern fighters.
Yeah, but
they're gonna be more in the classifications like the '90s fighters, to be honest.
Yeah, that's the case with every sport. As
absolutely,
time,
yes.
You know,
the pioneer wing becomes longer and longer and longer.
Yeah, it's like, is LeBron better than Jordan? Is Jordan better than Dr. J? It's one of those sort of arguments. So yeah, I mean that's just gonna happen in time with MMA also.
I absolutely agree. Moving on, let's talk about this Dana White news or. For boxing and Floyd Mayweather news. Dana White saying there's a verbal deal in place with Floyd Mayweather. He was on the Jim Rome podcast or show, and I was talking to this effect and said there's a verbal agreement that he had with Floyd Mayweather that they made at the Clippers game. By the way, they made it on the court, and that's how official it is.
But that actually wasn't that the start of the Pacquiao fight too? They met each other at a basketball game.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, so I mean that's realer than anything else we've heard. Did I just drop bars?
Wow. Somebody, one of the, I forget what the writer his name is. He was out there speaking of a quote from Dana White talking about obstacles in boxing and how he's going to hold off on Zuffa boxing. I'm trying to figure out where that quote is from because I do trust this source or this writer, and I forget his name. I apologize. And I find that interesting, especially in comparison to the news he's saying here about a verbal agreement with Floyd Mayweather. But Ant, is Zuffa boxing, Floyd Mayweather. Thoughts on it all?
I'll say if Mayweather is getting involved with Zuffa boxing, if there's some sort of like meeting of the minds between Al Heyman, Dana White, and Floyd Mayweather, and PBC and Mayweather Promotions mixing, I'm okay with that. That sounds that's a legitimate boxing promotion. Okay, I just don't want to hear any shit about Floyd boxing Khabib or I don't want to see him do his little Instagram post jumping in the cage with no shoes on. I don't want to see anything like that. If this is a boxing thing, okay, fine. I'll trust Floyd Mayweather in the boxing world, and I even cool with Dana White getting involved with the boxing world if it's boxing. But let's not. I'm so tired of this blending of worlds. Just nonsensical matchmaking and whatnot. I have no interest in seeing a McGregor rematch. I have no interest in seeing Masvidal in there with with Mayweather. I have no interest in any of that. But if Mayweather Pacquiao 2 is under Zuffa boxing, okay, I ain't mad at it. You know that.
If what is?
If Mayweather Pacquiao or something 2 is
okay.
Yeah, it's under Zuffa boxing. Okay, sounds fine to me.
It does seem weird though. Like if that were to happen,
yeah,
it does seem like an unnecessary.
Yeah, like why would you
partner
split the money more? Because that's a fight that'll sell itself
with the entity that doesn't really promote on any of your affiliated networks.
Isn't Pacquiao a PBC guy now?
Yes, they're all PBC.
So it's
guys.
like why would
PBC now
split their own money with ESPN and the UFC and
when they don't have to?
Yeah, like.
Again, the only way Dana White and Floyd Mayweather are actually working together is if we get one of those bullshit fights or exhibitions. You know it. There's no reason for them to work together for a Mayweather Pacquiao fight. There's no reason for them to work together for any sort of regular boxing promotion. There is zero reason for it. Zero. Mayweather's highly connected, and Mayweather Promotions overall is to Showtime. PBC is to Fox and Showtime. Fox, a network that the UFC just left.
Yeah,
it just doesn't seem necessary at all.
But I'm thinking back now to when those rumors were real hot and heavy about WME buying PBC. You know, and Al Heyman being retained as a figurehead. Now, if Mayweather and Dana White are coming into some agreement to like an actual boxing match that PBC can just promote on its own, or Mayweather and Heyman be involved with it, it lends a lot more credibility to that, because then
it does for sure lead more credence to the stories about PBC, or at least the Waddell and Reed investment of PBC being bought out by Endeavor. But that was largely stopped in terms of being a news story because of Endeavor not filing an IPO, not going public this year. It just seems odd. But then again, they're talking about a fight or an event in late 2020 per Dana White. He's talking about like November, December of 2020 is when they're looking to make some sort of a event together. At that point, are they looking to file for an IPO and go public? I don't know.
Yeah, because they were talking about dropping that IPO and stuff. Like, I don't even want to begin going down that rabbit hole necessarily, because I simply do not understand enough of the business stuff to get when how they evaluate the company and all that stuff. Like, we should hit up Pat O'Shea for that one. He'll drop some gems on the business side. But I'm just tired of Floyd Mayweather using mixed martial arts as a publicity stunt. That's really what I'm sick of.
Let me just shorten that up here. I'm tired of Floyd Mayweather's publicity stunts.
Yeah, see, I don't pay attention to the other ones. Oh my god, I'm sure there are plenty of them. The only one that I really was like, this pissed me off, was that Gucci shit. That was like, wow, this is some trash.
I feel bad for every one of his fighters. To put it that way. Moving on though, because I think we're both in agreement that this seems like a story that
shouldn't be a story,
and still doesn't seem likely in some aspect, right? Like, do you think that we actually get a event of some sort in late 2020 with Dana White and Floyd Mayweather, everyone working together, kumbaya?
If we do, it means there's a larger story than that, like
a larger criminal link,
like a PBC Zuffa buyout sort of thing. That's what that means. Other than that, man, this is more like I'm gonna box Khabib talk. That's what this is to me. Throw it in the trash.
So bad. It's so bad.
It's bullshit.
So bad.
Number one bullshit.
Moving on. Speaking of bullshit, God.
Oh man, I'm
what a tangent right there. Not tangent. What a
transition.
Transition. Thank you. Yeah. Jesus Christ, it's late, man. It's 9 p.m. over here. Nick Diaz eyeing a 2020 return to the UFC, eyeing a Jorge Masvidal fight. Obviously, he was interviewed by Ariel Helwani in this long-form interview that was something.
Yeah, I couldn't even watch the whole thing, man.
Agreed. I did not watch the whole thing either. It was rough. And before I get your thoughts mainly about Nick Diaz's return and maybe fighting Masvidal, what that would look like, thoughts on just how does he look right now? Because as somebody that knows people with substance abuse issues, that knows people that has issues, he seems like somebody that needs help, to be honest. I don't mean that to slight him in any way. I'm a huge Nick Diaz fan. Like half of my MMA sound bites for the intro are Nick Diaz.
Diaz brothers. So,
yeah.
You're a straight up Diaz fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know you mean no malice in that statement.
Are you concerned for Nick Diaz's well-being?
Very. Like the thing is, way back when I was a official media member, I was hearing things.
Hey, you just went to a MMA event like today or yesterday? So
today, yeah, I was at a media lunch today.
hey, you're just a super fan.
I'm a high level fan.
High level fan. That's what we're gonna call it.
I'm a high level fan.
Yes, that's what I am now too, guys.
Yeah,
high level fan.
So like Diaz, man, I've heard stories about his behavior. I mean, he's had some. Granted, I know he was exonerated at least on like the domestic violence charges, but there's been stories about fights and
just follow his
wild parties.
Just follow his IG, man.
Yeah,
like,
and
he posted it.
He's out. Yeah, he's at a club like every night and partying every night. Like
I had to stop following him because like as a fan, I'm like, I don't want to see Nick Diaz just drinking every night in Vegas clubs, man. Like, what is he doing?
When you look at him, you look at his face. He has the face of someone who is bloated with, with booze and whatever else. Like that's the face of someone. Yeah,
that's not just weed.
Yeah, that certainly isn't weed. That's not the munchies, my man. That's no.
No, and again, Nick Diaz has always been Nick Diaz. Like, I saw a section of the fandom and media that go like, "No, there's nothing to be worried about here." Like, it's Nick Diaz being Nick Diaz, guys. I'm like, no,
it's different. It's different.
Obviously, you just want to cover Nick Diaz events, or you have never met anyone or dealt with anyone with substance abuse issues.
Yeah,
because like he is just an obvious walking case of it. That I don't know how you can come into this and say, yeah, I'm excited for Nick Diaz's return. Especially against Masvidal.
Not right now.
Masvidal
would murder him right now. And it's not even a fair fight to make. It's just not. It's a fight that honestly shouldn't even be sanctioned.
No.
If that's the case. It's to everyone who say, oh, this is just Nick being Nick. Like, I'm not expecting a Nick Diaz interview to sound like a Daniel Cormier interview. That's just never gonna happen. We know this. We know what to expect from this man. But on that scale, even this was concerning. This was very concerning to me. He's been active for what, 5 years, something like that.
Inactive?
Yeah, since the Anderson fight. And that was UFC 183. I believe that was 5 years ago.
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, that was pretty sure that was UFC 183. So, I don't need to see him back. I don't. And if he is going to be back, I want to see him.
Going to 5 years, 183.
Yeah, I want to see him, look like a professional athlete. I want to see him treating his body the way a professional athlete would. I can't get behind this, man. I can't get behind this at all.
I agree completely. to sidestep of the story, obviously, is Jorge Masvidal's side because he's just got a big win against Nate Diaz.
And obviously, that's a fight that could sell if he's fighting Nick. Yeah,
but he is obviously not eyeing the winner of Usman Covington. Clearly, he is targeting Nick Diaz, who we've just mentioned, and Conor McGregor, of course. And obviously, Conor's fighting at 170, which is an
aspect we neglected to mention. But yeah, that's
I neglected it for this reason.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Look
at me producing over here.
You mother.
Yeah, I'm so smart. I know, guys. But Jorge Masvidal, what should he do next? I mean, in your mind.
I mean, if I get the bag, Jorge Masvidal is one of those guys who has been around for a long time. He's been slept on forever. He's toiled around on every single promotion you can think of, just about. He was in shark fights and was he? I think he was in Bodog for a little bit. Like he's been all over the
Everyone
place.
from like Florida and like the South fought in Bodog. Let's be honest.
Yeah, like he was. Yeah, Strike Force. I mean, he in Bellator. He's been everywhere. And everywhere he's come up just short of achieving something memorable. You know, he's always been just barely in reach and wasn't quite able to make the mark. You're talking about a dude who consistently dropped split decisions to the point where had one judge put one extra point on the scorecard for all of those fights, he would have been on some stupid like 16 fight win streak or something.
Yeah. A lot of those fights, you could argue that he should have won.
Exactly.
You can make that argument.
Definitely. So, at this point, man, Masvidal, how old is Masvidal? He's got to be in his 30s.
He's got to be in his 30s. I'll look it up.
Yeah. Probably mid to late 30s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's been fighting forever.
Yeah, or it's one of those cases where he has been fighting so long that maybe
35.
Yeah, 35. Okay, yeah. So a guy in his mid 30s, you've been fighting this long, dude. It's okay to get the money. Now, if the money is not in taking on the winner of Usman and Covington, which I think the money would be there, especially if Covington wins, then go after the Conor McGregor fight. Because you know what? Right now, he'd smoke Conor McGregor. Go after the Nick Diaz fight because he'd smoke Nick Diaz right now. Make the most money with the least path of resistance.
UFC, don't listen to Ant. Don't make the Nick Diaz fight.
No, don't. No, but if you're Masvidal, yes, you're going to campaign.
Oh, of course, yeah. Of course you are.
If you're his management, I think first round management with the Cowher brothers.
Yeah.
If you're a Malky or Abraham Cowher, yeah, campaign for that one for your client because that's the most money with the least amount of risk.
Absolutely, and not right above that is probably Conor McGregor because I think Masvidal smokes Conor right now.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think it's even competitive right now.
No, it's not. It's not right now.
Do you think that Masvidal has a legitimate chance to beat like a Usman Covington winner?
Yes, he does. He does. I probably would favor both of those guys against Masvidal right now.
Even
Covington,
a guy that really struggled for takedowns against RDA and got taken down by RDA. Just want to point that out there.
Yeah. Well,
just want to throw that out there. Some shade on, Covington.
Yeah, I know you're just trying to counter my point, but you understand why. Yeah, I know. You got to the gun. Every time I want to show you throw gunshots my way.
They're not your way. They're at Covington's way.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you be trying to hate on me too, but that's another story. Oh my God, me and Covington have something in common. So,
ew.
I feel nasty for that one. Yeah. Feel nasty for that. But yeah, man. Colby Covington, despite the abhorrent behavior and what some of the things he says and does and the lines he promotes himself on, is an incredibly skilled fighter.
You think he would beat Jorge? Do you think it would be competitive, or do you think that the activity rate of
I think it would be competitive in spots.
Yeah.
Like thing is, Covington can absorb a lot of damage and just keep coming at you.
Do you think Usman has an easier chance or time with Masvidal?
Yes, because I think he's the stronger guy and overall the better athlete.
Yeah.
So and I think he's the better striker, at least from a technical standpoint. The thing is, neither one of those guys wants to just have a striking battle with Masvidal. Masvidal is one of the best pure strikers in mixed martial arts. And, his hands are lovely. He's very sneaky with his kicks. So I don't think you really want that smoke if you're either one of those guys. But in conjunction with a high pressure wrestling game, high volume, yeah, you can crack that armor.
Do you think McGregor Masvidal is bigger than McGregor Diaz?
Yeah, at this moment, yeah. Yeah,
I was wondering about that.
At this moment, yeah.
It's close. There's an argument.
It's close. Like the thing is, I think both would generate so much fanfare that you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference from a distance.
And plus, it's very hard to tell in this new age because how do you compare these unknown pay-per-view numbers on ESPN Plus comparative to the old model on cable providers?
The only way to tell is like traffic from website traffic and stuff like that, and Google Trends and whatnot. And that's the only way really to tell. And even then, that doesn't tell the story of the people who just check the play-by-plays on Sherdog or MMA Fighting or something, and keep refreshing it.
Oh, agree.
Yeah. Or even the people who are reading the articles but looking at illegal streams. So it's really hard to tell with those metrics even.
Let's move on. Frankie Edgar is replacing Brian Ortega versus Chan Sang Jung, aka Korean Zombie.
Why?
First off, no, I just want air horns to Korean Zombie.
Oh, okay, of course.
Because
Korean Zombie's dope.
Respect to always.
Frankie Edgar's dope too. So
yeah,
shout out to Frankie.
Shout out to the UFC for thinking that Frankie's going to fight Korean Zombie in on 30 days, something like that.
Yeah.
Come back and fight.
And fight. What's your man's name? Sandhagen.
Oh, Sandhagen.
Yeah, for Corey Sandhagen, like the next week. Like really?
No, that's not gonna happen.
Like, come on, fam. No, like, we would know.
Frankie Edgar is a guy that's been brutally stopped recently in fights. Chan Sung Jung is a guy that's brutally stopped people in recent fights, or at least in the Yair Rodriguez fight, went to fucking war. There's no way Frankie, a guy that also gets in wars, is not going to take punishment in this fight.
Yeah, this is custom made for some sort of sloppy blood fest at some point in here. And one thing that people seem to sleep on with Korean Zombie, and I don't understand why, because he's shown you this time and time again, that man is a technical master. He gets better technique-wise every single time we see him. He does some sort of nuance. It's like, oh, that was fire what you just did. He keeps on doing it. And this is another thing that drives me crazy about this fight. And there's one more thing that drives me crazy too, but I'll get to the first one about this fight. Frankie Edgar finally goes down to bantamweight. They've been trying to get him to bantamweight forever. They've been talking about this forever.
The reverse Jose Aldo to 155.
Jesus Christ, man. They've been trying to get Frankie Edgar at bantamweight since the day before forever. He finally says yes. And now you book him a featherweight fight before the bantamweight. Like, come on now. Or right after the featherweight.
They have to save UFC Busan. They have to save it, man.
Man, I say call Shane Burgos, call Calvin Kattar, or something like.
Shane Burgos would be nice. I would love that fight.
Yeah, that would be a dope fight.
Yeah,
that would be a dope fight. So there are other people to call that are still competing at featherweight. Just a thought.
And actually, like, closer to contender status than Frankie Edgar, to be honest.
Yes, absolutely. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And then on top of that, now you kind of get out of this sort of weird space where Brian Ortega had the opportunity to kill off a marketable contender in Korean Zombie.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of snuck your way out of that one because you're painting yourself in the corner already. But let's put Korean Zombie back in front of a guy that Max Holloway has already defeated recently, so we can paint ourselves in this corner. We once again find a way to eliminate a good contender.
I'll say this: that worry should be there in terms of just matchmaking, period. But Korean Zombie should win this one.
Yeah, he should. He should. But Chad Mendes should have won the Frankie Edgar fight. You know what I'm saying? Like. But that's why they fight.
No, you're right.
Yeah, you don't throw that up there like that. You don't put that in the mix. Like it's unnecessary. It's really unnecessary. And I think it's very short-sighted.
It is.
And it's really fucking stupid.
And plus, like you said, like there's actual other names you can pull out.
Yes, then other names that make sense without blowing up another fight, and a fight that they've been trying to get Frankie down to bantamweight.
Frankie sure just said no.
The thing
it's
is,
so sad that he is such a company man because
his fault.
He's not gonna make the money he's probably rightfully earned. or should have earned. His body's been abused time and time again by the sport, and he's put himself on the line for the UFC time and time again. Man, I hope he gets paid well.
I certainly hope so.
I hope there's a huge back-end check for this guy all the time because he has been one of the biggest company men for the UFC.
They really need to take care of this man for doing this because this just puts too many things at risk, and it shouldn't have been put together in the first place.
Absolutely agree. Moving on. Oh, yes, I'm so excited for this topic. I think we accurately predicted when Corey Anderson knocked out Johnny Walker that he was just going to get overlooked for a title shot. And it was true. Per Brett Okamoto, Corey Anderson and Jan Blachowicz is in the works for a rematch to headline February 15th in New Mexico. You know, that great market for Corey Anderson and Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah.
New Mexico.
Where does Corey Anderson train, by the way?
Does he train in Albuquerque? That'd be the only reason it would make sense.
That's where I was thinking. Is he a Jackson guy?
But then it's Albuquerque, bro. Like, why do you want to fight in Albuquerque? Like, honestly.
Well, Albuquerque is a hotbed of MMA.
Yeah, but I mean, let's think about it. In pure money-making perspective, you have a John Jones title fight on the line where he does like a $6 million gate. He does a decent pay-per-view buy rate, obviously, because it's John Jones. But you get Jan Blachowicz in a fight night in New Mexico instead. Without the gate, without the pay-per-view, without the title fight, in a rematch. When, honestly, the Johnny Walker fight was a breakout moment for Corey Anderson. It was the moment you can argue that you can realistically go and promote now a Corey Anderson-John Jones fight.
Yeah, that was perfect. And Corey Anderson has already kind of had this back and forth sort of like social media feud with John Jones stemming from UFC 232 being relocated and Corey Anderson fighting Alir Latifi on that card. So you had some sort of built-in storyline already, like if you have to promote a storyline, like it was there already. And Corey Anderson should have got a title shot before. Like, I'm sorry. I know you definitely slammed this when I was on the show longer. It was ahead of I think it was ahead of UFC 230 when they put where they put together Cormier versus Derek Lewis, and I was saying like give Cormier, let Cormier defend the light heavyweight belt again. And I say put Corey Anderson in front of him. Like that time he had two or three fight win streak. It was the best active streak or something of someone ranked that high. Like, all right, let's do it. Let's give it to him. Like, I'm not necessarily saying I need to see that fight, but okay, he kind of earned it. Throw him in there.
I didn't like that at the time.
Yeah, you didn't. You definitely hit the on that. So yeah, you definitely hit that. But see, this
at that time, no, that was bad. That was a bad matchup.
It was a rightful.
It made sense.
Yeah,
it
was a rightful challenger.
It made sense in a weird way.
Meritocracy. Forgive me. Shit. I care about sporting integrity. What do you care about, Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, Derek Lewis just came back from like a great knockout win on like a Volkanovski, right? Heading into the DC fight. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
Yeah, but
respect.
Yeah. But actually, this was before. I think it was before the Lewis fight was official. When it was just kind of like, what do you do with Daniel Cormier? Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
digressing from that.
Yeah. So what were we talking about?
Corey Anderson. Is he a guy that goes to Bellator as soon as possible, or like anywhere else because he just doesn't feel like he's valued?
I think so. I think you look at what Ryan Bader has done in Bellator. It makes perfect sense. God,
he's gonna get Ryan Bader. That's just what's with the UFC having a division historically that's been the golden division for MMA. 205 historically has been the best division and the most profitable division for MMA, and yet the UFC routinely just doesn't know how to handle contenders and prospects. Why is there like this huge disconnect? And I'll be honest, I feel this way on matchmaking as a whole lately. That there's just I saw recently some posts online on Twitter, and it was like a Yahtzee gif, and like, this is UFC matchmaking right now. I'm like, that's true. Like it does seem a little bit like that at times where they're just throwing the dart at the wall and seeing, okay, these are two names together, boom, boom. Yeah. Okay, there we go. We're gonna make this fight.
I think two reasons. One, Corey Anderson has been very vocal about his displeasure on being in the UFC right now. You know, Dana got very combative when asked about what to do with Corey Anderson, him calling for a title shot, saying, give me the shot or cut me. And after he smoked Johnny Walker, and it was the perfect time to just give it to him. I think it's a combination of trying to kind of bury him. And then on top of that, Jan Blachowicz he just had probably the most boring main event of the year so far against Jacare. So when you do that, you're almost trying to keep these guys busy. You just keep them busy to keep them away from the belt, keep them away from a high-profile main event. And as unfair as it seems to Corey Anderson, even Jan Blachowicz, because Jan Blachowicz has made a very impressive run as of late. Jan Blachowicz has looked fantastic, although that last fight was not exactly the fight that I'm gonna happily rewatch when it's time to tape study. He's looked pretty damn good lately. So you could even throw him in for a title shot, and it makes perfect sense. So these are two guys for one reason or another. One coming off of a pretty boring fight, the other one pissing off the UFC. They say, okay, these two guys aren't exactly on our list of favorites right now, so let's throw them together. If something exciting emerges, all right, maybe that person will get the winner of Johnny Walker and Dominic Reyes. Oh, by the way, if Reyes wins, so we're probably going to do an immediate rematch, so whatever.
Shout out to, I'm assuming it's Matthew Wells, slipping the podcast in the chat saying not capitalizing on Corey's knockout to earn a title shot is ridiculous. Agree. Go back and watch Jan versus Corey 1 and try to stay awake. It's rough.
Exactly. Yeah. Like and that's another thing. I'm glad you Matt Wells, that is Matt the Greater, to say that was foul. Do that right in your house too. That was foul.
Bro.
I don't apologize neither because that was kind of fly. But to not only then throw this, to like have this random like, okay, throw a dart against a board scenario with matchmaking, and then when those darts are thrown together and it's like, oh wow, this is a rematch. We're main eventing a undercard fight that was pretty garbage.
Now to play devil's advocate, Dominic Reyes did pick up a notable win
that he did against an unranked guy.
He did no.
Again, unranked in light heavyweight.
Yeah, former middleweight champion Chris Weidman. And obviously that was a dramatic KO win. Maybe not to this similar fashion to...
Yeah, it was close enough.
Yeah, in terms of entertainment and violence factor.
First round knockouts, yeah. We're like, oh shit, that happened.
Yeah. And I think clearly the UFC has liked Chris Weidman for a very long time. Right? They love those guys. Like the Chris Weidman, Frankie Edgar group. You can tell the UFC loves them. Mm-hmm. Right? You can just tell Dana White that's his boys. And I think since Reyes got the win over one of his guys, Dana White's guys, they gave him the shot, to be honest. I feel that. I have nothing to go on that. That's my gut instinct. While Johnny Walker was this huge Brazilian prospect they're marketing, Corey Anderson's a guy they haven't liked, has been talking shit about the UFC forever, beats this Brazilian prospect, a market that they've been trying to build new names and stars in for some time, beats him to a pulp within the first round. They're like, fuck Corey Anderson again. Let's give him Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah, that's
what it feels like to me.
Yeah, it feels like sort of revenge matchmaking. Mm-hmm. And I mean we did say it was like, yeah. I think I tweeted this like right after Corey Anderson beat Johnny Walker at 244. I was like, and with that win, he has secured Dominic Reyes as the #1 contender.
Yes.
We saw the writing on the wall, and here we are reading it.
The legitimate debate at the time was going to be like, was the UFC pick Johnny Walker or Dominic Reyes? Because those are obviously the two favored prospects at the light heavyweight division. And, it's not surprising really because, like, think about like in boxing. Think about how many promoters there are within the top 10 of each division. There's 4 or 5, 6 different promoters all picking up and sharing names within the top 10 of a division. Largely, the UFC has a monopsony over the top 10s of MMA rankings. There's the occasional Bellator name, occasional ONE name, occasional PFL name. But largely speaking, it's dominated by UFC fighters, right?
Right.
while I think the management load for matchmakers and a promoter overall to handle all those names and to meet all of their needs is difficult. To be sort of give the UFC a bone here, it must be actually difficult to try to promote everyone's interest within the top 10 of every division because you control the top 10 of every division. You know,
you can't make everybody.
You can't make everyone happy. It's just obvious when they have certain fighters that they clearly always give the short end of the stick.
Yeah, see,
that's the issue.
It's a difference between you can't make everybody happy to actively trying to make someone unhappy.
Yes,
like that's kind of what we see and what we're seeing here. So
yeah, I just want to make that distinction because I do think that is an issue, honestly, with the UFC. That there is times where they clearly have too many names and too many characters, and they don't really know how to promote everyone at the same time.
No.
And it's kind of difficult to promote everyone at the same time. Imagine like lightweight. Think about all those different competing interests at lightweight. How do you handle and juggle that as a matchmaker and a promoter? It is difficult.
Yeah, you know what? I come to think of it too. Something that Dana said.
Now, Dana usually handles it very poorly when he says like "fuck these fighters" and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But just want to say that if a better man would handle it and still have difficult time with it, honestly.
He's not exactly known for his subtlety and finesse. As the Gina Carano negotiation show, he has the finesse of a sledgehammer and the precision of a chainsaw. So yeah, but anyway, one thing that he said, thank you. One thing he said in the build up to the Mayweather-McGregor fight, how he enjoyed just being the promoter and just saying, "Oh, this is my guy, my guy to win."
You can tell it's easier,
and he seemed more enthusiastic. He seemed like he was actually having a good time instead of that, that grumpy, snarky vibe that he gives on the post fight pressures to us.
That okay boomer vibe.
Yeah, that he used to give to me way back when I was a credentialed media member. But anyway,
you were credentialed today. You cannot say this anymore.
I am.
You may be a free agent, but motherfucker, you were at an event today featuring Max Holloway.
I'm a high level fan.
By the way, we're both taking offers from any outlet out there. Not saying that we're a duo, but just saying that we could be.
We could be.
I mean,
we already kind of are.
Yeah, I'm just saying any outlet out there. If you get one of us, if you get both of us, it's a better deal. And I'm cheap.
Yeah, he'll.
Ant has more self pride. I'm a cheap whore.
Yeah. Oh man, the ways that joke could have gone. I'll just shut up. Next topic.
Pause. Brief conversation about this. Yeah, we have time. Nah, hold on. Let me see briefly.
Oh, you trying to scan the other?
Yeah, let's see what we can shave off. Let's run through these topics.
I was like, nothing like dead silence on here. That's what's up.
Yes, nothing like that silence. It's a live show. Who cares? And it's 9:40 p.m., guys. Come on. But moving on. Errol Helwani reporting Jared Cannonier versus Robert Whittaker March 7th. Johnny Walker, Nikita Krylov March 14th. And speaking of the latter, that's all but done. But the former is still in talks because Whittaker really likes the idea of London versus Darren Till. So let's sort of separate these topics. Whittaker, what would you want for Whittaker to do next? Is it a Darren Till fight in London? Is it a Jared Cannonier fight? In your mind, what would you want from Robert Whittaker, as he kind of has options right now and seems to have wants to fight quickly, it seems.
I'd actually would throw the Gastelum fight together. I'd have Whittaker and Gastelum finally fight each other.
Ooh.
Because if we're going to go with the old Joe Silva matchmaking model,
that's what
winners and winners, losers and losers.
You would put Till and Cannonier together.
Yeah.
And Whittaker, because you can't do Romero because he's coming off a loss and you've already done those fights too many times.
Yeah.
You would do Whittaker Gastelum, a fight that didn't happen, that was scheduled.
That we excited for before, and yeah.
Ooh, that'd be good.
And it's even more intriguing now with both of them coming off of a loss together. That's where I would go. And then also for Cannonier versus Till, I like that fight a lot because not only action-wise does it promise to be something pretty dope. For Till's already a very well-known commodity. He's already got the promotion that's gotten behind.
He does numbers.
But Cannonier needs some of that love. He needs some of that rub. And a guy as dangerous as him who puts on exciting performances consistently like he does could use some of that rub. So if he walks away the winner, you've built another star.
Yeah, plus there's the Anderson fight. I think that helped a lot for him, honestly.
You know what? I don't think the Anderson fight resonated as much, man, because it was so weird.
Maybe not for the casuals, because I don't think Anderson has that pull anymore.
Yeah.
But for the hardcores, because I think Cannonier was still sort of slept on it from the hardcore base, to be honest. I think the narrative around him on social media, on comment threads, on articles and videos, forums, like it has switched on Cannonier.
But you know what? I think it was less about the fight. I think it was more about the post-fight interview. That crazy scene with the Brazilians booing him and he firing right back at him, and and then like his post-fight speech after what was the last fight, the last one he had, he knocked Tommy out. Yeah, Hermanson. Yeah. He went on about the positive energy and taking over the world or something that he was talking about, like that sort of thing where you saw these glimmers of personality. Was like, oh, this guy's interesting. Like, I think we should have known that he's a good fighter. Like the way he ran through David Branch and stuff. Like the way he had some good quality wins at 205 and stuff. Like the dude has proven himself in the cage. But I think those glimmers of personality have helped a lot. Now for him to have a name like David Branch is a name that the hardcores really respect and recognize what he was able to accomplish in the sport, because the casuals don't, because a lot of it, his best days were spent in World Series of Fighting as a dual weight champion.
The fight you mentioned, Hermanson.
Yeah,
that fight did, I think, another series of, I think, it helped progress the narrative about Cannonier being, I would say, like the next Romero in terms of the boogeyman of the division.
Like the level of destruction that this man can put on you.
Yes.
And then to see the glimmers of personality, like, oh man, we got something here.
Yeah.
So you put a Darren Till in front of him, and either way, you being the UFC are the winner. Either way.
How in boxing they do like the sit downs where the fighters have the chairs turned over and it's all like dramatic.
Yeah.
I want that with Till and Cannonier, and have like Brian Campbell or something somebody
Brian
like
Campbell
that moderate it. Oh my god, it'd be so good.
No, you know who I would have moderated? Aaron Bronstetter.
Aaron is low key.
Aaron Bronstetter
in business.
Yeah, Aaron. Shout out to Aaron. Not only is he
Great
like
guy.
a really great guy, really cool guy. I respect the hell out of his work, and he is so good at throwing low key shade. That man can throw some shade so low key, man.
Yeah,
I respect the hell out of it.
He has some snark in him.
Yeah, it's like, and it's. God damn, that's the guy who should moderate the sit downs.
That'd be good. I like that.
Brett Okamoto, as good as he would be in that role, he's just too stunningly handsome. Sorry,
no, it's not
too
that.
distracting, too good looking.
Brett to a professional. No, honestly.
Damn, that's cold. Did I just kind of low key just
you pause.
Call. No. I'm pause. No, I'm cool with.
Okay.
Brett Okamoto is a good looking dude.
He's a very good looking dude.
Yeah. He's as good looking as an Anthony Walker. So we'll just throw that out there.
I don't know about that.
We'll just throw that out there. But
where's
I kind of low key shitted on Aaron.
Wait, hold on. Where's Jose come into this?
Jose's a good looking man.
It's nose ring, huh? That doesn't.
I'm not really feeling the blonde, but
oh yeah, I agree with you. But anyways, digressing from this.
Shout out to Jose too.
Funny.
Jose's a homie, but
yes, all homies. I forgot what I was going to talk about.
What the hell? No, but yeah, you're talking about the sit down between them. And that would be a great way to promote this to promote that fight. But
it would bring out character in a way that a press conference maybe wouldn't. Because that setting is more these fighters directed at each other talk to each other.
Yeah, and it's just about you two right now, and it's in a setting without the artificial. Okay, the crowd or weird questions or just garbage questions from media, and the conversation can be steered in a very direct fashion and just between two gentlemen with a moderator. I like it.
So you're the mind that you'd rather have Cannonier, Till, Whitaker, Gastelum. Now, I love that world. We don't live in that world, it seems. What would you rather see, Cannonier, Whitaker, or Whitaker, Till?
I'd go Whitaker Till.
Yeah, it seems like the bigger fight.
Yeah. And then also from
we haven't really mentioned it. Till's performance against Gastelum was really impressive.
It was it wasn't necessarily the most fun to watch, but he closed a lot of gaps that he's left open in previous fights. And
coming off of a loss to a layoff, going up a division, and he improved drastically in a performance against a fighter we all expect him to lose against.
Yeah, and then even his admissions after the fight about the level of fear he felt and how he wanted to weasel his way out of it the last minute,
trying to fake an injury.
Yeah,
that's
like
insane.
Yeah, he, that was that guy. That guy is very impressive. I like the way he needed a rebound very badly. Matt with an excellent point. Matt the Greater saying, so y'all just accepting Adesanya versus Romero. You know what? And that's one of those things. If
it's happening,
it's happening. It should.
I don't agree
it should be Adesanya versus Cannonier. It should be. It should be.
Yeah, yes. The Hermanson win was.
Yeah, if Costa's out for the bicep tear or the bicep tear, yeah, we should have Cannonier in that spot, but unfortunately, we don't live in that world.
So to answer Matt's question, yes, we are.
We have to. We have no choice.
Unfortunately, but that's still a great fight. That's a good thing about middleweight. Like even like that fight, which is not deserving of a matchup right now, doesn't really make sense. It's still a fantastic matchup. Like middleweight is what 205 was, 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
it is that exciting with like every top 10 matchup that you could really make.
Yeah, it's like okay, I'm down for that.
I'm going to watch this. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It just so happens that there are clear contenders that have earned certain opportunities that just aren't getting it, like Cannonier.
Right.
But I would say this: if he does get the Whitaker fight, that would be a sign of a number one contender fight, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
I can see Whitaker beating Cannonier, going straight back to an Adesanya fight in Australia, and the UFC going back to that market.
I mean,
to be honest.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think
that
if
made the money.
Not if Whitaker wins. If Whitaker wins, I still say one more first, but because he got destroyed.
I would like that, but the UFC would book it again.
Oh, of course the UFC would book it. Yeah, the way that stadium filled up.
Unless Till can come in here and get a fight against Adesanya, because the UFC, they love Darren Till.
Yeah.
They're going to want to put him in there against Adesanya as quickly as possible.
I would rather see Till versus Adesanya before seeing Whitaker Adesanya again.
Would you rather see Adesanya versus Till or Adesanya versus Romero? Ooh.
Right now, Till would deserve it more.
Absolutely.
Gaslam. Yeah, Till would deserve it more. So I have to go with the meritocracy.
That's weird, huh?
Yeah, a bit. But I'll say this: Adesanya versus Romero promises to be the more aesthetically pleasing fight.
I don't know about that. It's gonna be the more interesting fight. That fight could have a weird style.
Well, I mean, aesthetically, just fun to watch.
I think Adesanya Till is a more entertaining fight to watch.
You think so? With the level of weirdness that Romero brings, and him pointing away and dropping you when you look out in the crowd, and also the crazy stuff like that.
I think it would be very hard to replicate that fight again, to be honest, for Adesanya. And though the more I think about it, Adesanya Till could end up like Stephen Thompson.
Exactly. So yeah, like that fight has much more potential to be sort of a point fight than Romero being in there against anybody. When has Romero ever had a boring fight? The worst you can think of is probably the Jacare fight, and that really wasn't boring. So
yeah. Let's move on. Let's skip some topics for the sake of time. This one's always fun, and plus, Diego Sanchez is a character and he does numbers. Diego Sanchez returns against Michael Pereira at UFC Rio Rancho.
Michelle Pereira, I think.
Is it Michelle?
Michelle. I'm just about. I think so. Whatever.
It doesn't matter. The guy does flips instead of actual punches. Diego Sanchez was going to do a Burmese boxing deal.
Lethway.
Which is the craziest fucking shit. That should be illegal.
That is pure knucklehead territory if you in some Lethway. Yeah.
I don't know how people can watch that. Like, same with, like, bare knuckle boxing. Like, I don't know how people can actually enjoy that content.
If you watch World Star Hip Hop fights, like you can watch Lethway.
You watch snuff videos.
I don't watch snuff videos.
No.
I'm saying, like, the fuck, bro?
No. If you watch that content and, like, really enjoy it, you probably watch snuff videos on, like, the dark web.
I wouldn't go that far.
I'm judging.
I wouldn't go that far.
If you really like that's your shit.
No, Lethway is dope. It's dope. Like I'm not a diehard fan. I don't watch every event, but I've seen a couple.
I'm grouping it with bare knuckle boxing here.
I've seen just about every bare knuckle boxing event.
But you saw it because you had to because of your job.
I didn't necessarily have to. I volunteered to write some shit.
Did you enjoy that shit? Like, was that your shit?
When it's fun,
I'm judging you.
When it's good, it's really good, but it has the potential to be really bad. And I think also, I think I have problems with their business model, and so that opens up other doors. But just bare knuckle boxing in and of itself, I have absolutely no problem with. Yeah, I know you. I know right now you look like Lou DiBella on that ESPN show arguing with Rogan. That's what you look like right now. Outdated. Get with the times, bro.
So you're comparing the UFC and like, what was that, like 2004, right? Like that was actually like pretty advanced in the UFC's history already to bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah, like I don't know how you comparing that. How you Houseway?
Jay,
you ain't got the answers.
Well, Jay
you ain't got the answers. I just wanted to do that. I was actually thinking about coming over here and saying Houseway. You ain't got the answers all day long, but yeah, so I did it.
Thank you for not doing that all day long. Jay saying, what's wrong with bare knuckle boxing? There's space for everybody. No, there's not. There's not space for everybody. And what's wrong with it? Like the business stuff, as Ant alluded to. But
the action in of
itself? No, it's not. It's not entertaining. It is like watching that regional card, whether it's boxing or MMA, where it just features like two heavyweight dudes that clearly are just got gloves and they're wearing like
just winging at
they're wearing
other.
like the Nike like basketball shorts,
Mhm.
you know, like those guys. Bare knuckle boxing is that all the time, with just bloodier because they're bare knuckle. Like I see no value in it whatsoever. And the top fighters in bare knuckle boxing are, I mean, UFC castoffs.
Yeah, and boxing castoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I mean that with complete
disdain
and disrespect. Okay.
Just cold-blooded.
I don't know how anyone can see value in that. Like I have a hard time seeing value in those very bad regional fights. Not regional like fights, period. But the bad ones where it's like these guys clearly aren't invested into the sport, clearly aren't training, clearly aren't fighters. They clearly either know someone, they wanted to do this, they got drunk in the crowd and somebody handed them some gloves.
You sound like the old boxing heads talking about the UFC. That's what you sound like right now, bro.
Well, the UFC was like that, and then it got better.
Yeah, and same thing can happen with bare knuckle boxing.
No, it can't.
Yes, it can.
No,
because
it cannot.
the thing is, you're looking at it through the lens of boxing and MMA. They are three different sports. So yes, they're related in techniques. They're related in the crossover and personalities. But there is something technically different about what happens in bare knuckle compared to mixed martial arts, compared to kickboxing, compared to boxing. The thing is with enough events, and we've seen this, which I know you don't watch none of the events. So you don't.
I've seen clips online.
Yeah, exactly. You don't watch none of the events, so
true.
you don't see enough of these clips to see nuances in technique that are evolving.
Yeah. A guy slips off the center line every once in a while. Whoop-de-fucking do.
Dude. So the shot selection is different.
You see more body shots in MMA. Of course you do, because every MMA fighter is scared to throw a body shot because they're gonna get kneed or
because
kicked.
it evolves. It evolves. So you watch enough bare knuckle events. And you will start seeing, okay, chronologically, you see some improvement.
Here's the reason why that comparison to the early UFC is fucking ludicrous. Okay? First off,
I'm about to destroy this man. Continue.
The UFC was at that time, a very new sporting product comparative to anything else on the offered to a U.S. audience.
This man about to get the word.
Okay? Very different than boxing. It actually had, significantly different rule set than boxing. Not just no gloves. While bare knuckle boxing is just a more niche version of regular boxing. So it's not anything new. The UFC had so much room to grow because it was new in the U.S. market at the time. Bare knuckle boxing isn't new. Again, it's a worse version of actual boxing. So how's it ever going to catch on? How is it ever going to get actual athletes to compete in it? I don't know how you ever think it propels the way that the UFC did when the UFC had a complete lane in combat sports that they weren't even competing with anyone in the U.S. market for at least 4 or 5 years.
This man about to get to work. Now, I never said that the sport is going to stick around and be this huge thing. I'm not saying
No. I know you're not saying that. No. I know you're not saying that.
Yeah.
No. I know you're saying it in the context of I can see bare knuckle boxing improving and getting to a point where it's a viable sport.
Where it can maintain some level of relevance
And
to
I'm
enough of an audience to keep the lights on.
I'm saying no. I'm saying there's no way it does that. Same with like Luthe or
Lethway,
whatever. Like
that's a big deal over there
in Burma. Yes,
yeah, but Burmese money is money, so they operating.
Okay, but I'm talking
they
from
don't fight past.
I'm only talking from a U.S. perspective. I'm only talking about from a U.S. perspective.
Oh, so the U.S. is the only country that matters.
When we're talking,
so are you?
We're talking about bare knuckle boxing, which is a U.S. property.
Do you want
yes,
to switch that out for the MAGA hat?
When we're talking about when we're talking about bare knuckle boxing, which is a U.S. company, a U.S. property, then yes, of course, we're only talking about the U.S. market.
No.
We're not talking about Lethway.
Yeah, Lethway is a foreign product.
I'm only talking about it in the context of being viewed and being a content provider in the U.S. market through UFC Fight Pass. Because isn't it on UFC Fight Pass?
Yeah, it's on Fight Pass.
I don't think that's going to last forever.
I mean,
maybe it does because it's super fucking cheap probably to buy.
Probably, yeah.
But
and enough people will watch it.
It's never going to get to a point where it actually propels to something greater than what it is.
No, I'm not. I mean,
bare knuckle boxing never gets to a point where it's better than what it is.
Bare knuckle boxing is never going to highlight anything in Madison Square Garden, and it will never get sanctioned in a lot of states. And but as long as they stay within their lane, they can exist. And that's all I'm saying. And the technique does evolve. It will evolve. You just need more goes at it. Now, as far as it's just like, oh, this is boxing without gloves, not necessarily, because you know how boxing changed when gloves were introduced. And it changes things drastically. As someone who has trained boxing and mixed martial arts, you know this.
The size of glove does change things. Yeah, absolutely.
Or just the presence of gloves, period, changes things.
Of course, but I mean, like in MMA, I'm not training bare knuckle ever.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean. Like in terms of a striking aspect, I'm never.
Yeah, of course.
But I understand what you're saying. Yes, absolutely. But again, it's still far within the lane of boxing. When the UFC and MMA isn't really within the lane of boxing, similar to like kickboxing and boxing, never really having any crossover appeal because they're in different lanes.
Yeah.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, collegiate wrestling, amateur wrestling, Olympic wrestling. These are all properties or combat sports that have little to no crossover in fandom or in attention. And they've survived because they've been their own... They have controlled that lane of combat sports in a way.
Yeah,
especially within their respective markets or
the lane
countries.
Didn't exist until somebody created it. So
I understand that, but the lane of bare knuckle boxing is so much within the lane of actual professional boxing that I don't know how you ever get to a point where bare knuckle boxing doesn't get looked at as what is this shit? Like this is illegal fighting in barns.
A lot of people will look at it like that, but that doesn't mean that there's nothing to the sport. That doesn't mean that it's its own sport.
There's nothing to the sport.
You're just a grumpy old man. See, I thought I'm the grumpy old man.
What is there to bare knuckle boxing? Tell me.
It's people hitting each other for money. The same as boxing, kickboxing.
No. I don't watch combat sports just to watch people hitting each other.
Well, they have technique, their strategy. Now the sport has to work because the first UFCs were just complete, just ridiculous fest of chaotic brutality. But enough events and people start figuring shit out, and people start coming in with strategies, and they start doing different things.
But the UFC and MMA as a whole was a completely new business and industry that was created that attracted top-level athletes in several markets.
It took a while, but
no. I'm not saying instantly. No, I'm saying it eventually did. It eventually did.
But top level eventually. So there was time.
No. I'm agreeing with you. Yeah. No. But they got to that point. I don't see bare knuckle boxing ever getting to the point where they have top-level athletes within.
Okay.
But
that's independent of my argument.
No, that is entirely my argument. If bare knuckle boxing can never get top level athletes, can never progress as a sport, can never get viewed differently, always is within the shadow of actual boxing, how does it ever progress to be better than what it is currently? Other than some minor aspects of like certain fighters throw better shots to the body, certain fighters get head movement better,
an evolution in technique, and it just
but that's nothing
attracts
to me.
people to it.
That doesn't.
It's nothing to you,
but it's not going to attract top level athletes to it.
Okay,
but that's what I want to see in combat sports.
Okay.
Again, like you want to see people hitting each other. I want to see top level athletes fight.
I'd like to see top level athletes fight as well.
That's all I care about, though.
Okay,
I you know me, and like I don't like seeing like I don't like seeing bad MMA or bad boxing.
Yeah,
like I feel like it's disrespectful. Like don't put that shit in front of my face. Especially
snob ass motherfucker.
Especially if I'm a paying consumer.
Yeah, I understand that.
And bare knuckle boxing is just all bad boxing.
It's guys who aren't necessarily trained in what bare knuckle should be. They're used to fighting with boxing gloves. They're used to fighting in MMA rules. So they're adaptations that just haven't been made yet.
The zenith of bare knuckle boxing technique doesn't matter because it never creates a sport that is viable long term and creates actual athletes. You haven't seen the zenith
of bare knuckle boxing. You haven't seen it
because
it hasn't happened yet. I'm saying maybe it doesn't happen.
I'm not saying it has happened. I'm saying when the zenith of technique happens, as you're talking about, this high level technique that all of a sudden happens in bare knuckle boxing, it doesn't even matter if that happens, because even if that does happen, it's not a sport where we get guys coming from amateur boxing going to bare knuckle boxing instead.
Well, because they won't be.
You know what I mean? You're never going to see like an Olympic gold medalist go from the Olympics to bare knuckle boxing. That never happens in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. Does not matter.
Well, because a lot of it isn't really applicable, other than you're throwing punches. So like the thing is, it will take someone with better footwork to get in there and help evolve the technique. It will take someone with the better shot selection. You've seen that already. The first event under this banner, the BKFC banner, was just even like the Artem Lobov and Jason Ivar, whatever. Those are just bloodfest and people just swinging and going crazy. But you've seen guys who have competed multiple times in bare knuckle have changed the way they approach it.
But that doesn't mean anything, because those guys that are still fighting are cast-offs, are journeymen.
The thing is, if they're cast-offs and journeymen that are doing that, people who were just attracted to that in and of itself in the first place might do it differently too.
But my job isn't to care about the 10 people that get their shit off to that crap.
Okay, I didn't say you had
no, I know that.
On it.
But in the context of my argument of why does Jay's question of why do I have an issue with bare knuckle boxing? That's my issue with it. I'm explaining my issue. That's all I'm doing. Is that it's never going to get to a point where it's a legitimate sport. It's never going to get to a point where I see actual like top level athletes compete in it. And even if technique does improve within the sport, it's improving within journeyman level fighters and athletes that, I mean, I can go see Gabe Rosado fight a bunch of times if I want in actual boxing and get way better fights and have that effective old journeyman fights. You know what I mean? Like that's my issue with it. Now, if I saw a clear path where it becomes something more like, in a weird way, let's say like jiu-jitsu has formed in America. Like there's a niche for that market.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
Which took decades to
get when there is collegiate wrestling within the U.S., right? So like maybe that's a good comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think bare knuckle has a much harder time getting to that comparative to, let's say, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighting with amateur wrestling in a sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I didn't say it's an easy path. Yeah. I don't say it's a path that will ever be completed. But I do say that it is a sport. It is a legitimate sport. It may be, the business of it may be conducted illegitimately, in my opinion. There are issues with the way that organization is run and the talent that they select in terms of digging up the graves of MMA fighters who shouldn't be doing anything remotely combative. So I have a huge problem with a lot of the things they do. But the concept of people hitting one another without gloves isn't a taboo for me.
I'm not saying it's taboo. No.
It's something I don't have a problem with, and I think if it continues long enough, it will evolve into its own thing. It may not be the most profitable thing. It may not take over this or take over that. but it'd be enough to fill up a gymnasium every once in a while and make a profit.
Well, there's been bare knuckle events for as long as there's been boxing. It's like that doesn't mean anything to me.
But that's been you talking about shit in like underground, like barns and stuff like that, and back of bars, which all you need is be able to afford a Jack and Coke.
So you're differentiating obviously like the underground bare knuckle boxing to like what BKC.
Yeah, to like an actual to where it's actually like a sanctioned sport. Yes, it's very possible. It's already a sanctioned sport. And I'm okay with your distaste.
No.
That's fine. It makes sense because you are, and I say this as a compliment. You're a snob for technique. I am too in a lot of ways.
I'm an asshole. Period. I always say that.
That is true. But I was going to let you off the hook for that.
I'm a cynical fuck. Apologize.
You are incredibly. You're even more cynical than me, which I find to be startling.
Wait till you have a kid. It's happening soon.
I'm sure. I'm about to be such an asshole.
Always happening.
I mean, I'm gonna be half sleeping, just a jerk.
You're gonna have zero patience for bullshit.
Like all my patience and all my kindness and love will be just for my wife and my son.
Yes.
And other than that, man, fuck y'all.
Because let me tell you, the amount of bullshit you put up, it's gonna be insane. I forget what I was gonna say. I was gonna make some.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Diego Sanchez and Michelle Pereira.
Because no one cares about the fight. But
I mean, I just want to see the walkouts. That's all I want. I just want to see the walkouts.
Diego's one of those guys that I slightly worry about as well.
No, actually, I'd more than slightly worry about him. Yeah. I was actually the only thing that I was relieved about with this booking was that one, he's fighting a guy who really isn't good, and then Michelle Pereira. He's fun to watch, but he isn't exactly a good fighter. And then also that Diego wasn't called up to BKFC because my serious prediction was the BJ Penn rematch in BKFC. That's what I thought was going to happen, and my stomach was turning at the thought.
Yeah, because it's bare knuckle boxing.
No, because no, not because it's bare knuckle boxing. Because the two men that would be hitting each other and the money involved. You tried to prove a point, but no, you just got the word.
It's funny though.
Is it?
By the way, it was funny.
Okay.
Someone's hurt. It's okay.
It's bullshit.
It's okay, Ant. I know it's bullshit.
Bro,
okay.
don't try to paint the emotional picture with me.
Fuck boxing. Fuck boxing.
It's okay, Ant. Relax.
Are you gonna make a fuck bare knuckle boxing soundbite now?
No, that's you speaking to boxing because you're a bare knuckle boxing guy. So you're like, fuck actual boxing. Fuck that, more legitimate.
Sport. Legitimate boxing like KSI and Logan Paul. That's what's up. Continue.
Sometimes I feel discouraged.
That's one of those moments, by the way. Felt discouraged that moment. French sports minister pushing back the committee to legalize MMA. I think it's just a month, though. So it still looks like we're going to get legalization of MMA in France.
What an outdated fuckhead. Like, we're pushing back on MMA. Like, shut the fuck up. The rest of the world is already on this. There's gazillions of dollars to be made in this. You have top-level athletes from your country repping your set. And your dumbass is trying to stop it. Is this something of? I didn't even read this headline. Is this something involving like the Judo Federation? Because they finally got on board. The Judo Federation was trying to stop this initially. They're a bunch of outdated fuckheads. Also,
I wouldn't be surprised because I think with France, the Olympic Committee and all these committees are so intertwined. But I'll be honest, I didn't really do that much research on it. Other than I know there's a French promotion that they may have to move their event because of this to another European country, but
and talking happens. So when this announcement was made that that MMA was going to get legalized in France, I'm trying to think at what time. I want to say I spoke with Martin Lewandowski, the CEO of KSW, right around that same time, and he was excited. He was like, well, it's going to take us a while to kind of get in there because they have to sort out some things and make sure it's sanctioned properly and all that. But yeah, it's a very attractive thing. KSW is filling up stadiums in Europe. They are making a boatload of money. They're putting on some very good shows. France may want to get a little bit of that bag too. It doesn't make sense. Why would you turn this down because of some outdated, nonsensical Lou DiBella on ESPN arguments.
France has always been behind the ball when it comes to combat sports.
They got it right when it came to fries, and then they dropped the ball everywhere else.
That's actually Belgium, but it's all right.
Close enough.
It's the same thing almost. But like boxing in France is pretty much non-existent too. You know what I mean? Like
Savate is their thing in France. I don't know how big that is. Very, very interesting combat discipline.
It's a variation of kickboxing.
Yeah. It's very.
For those that didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's very interesting to watch. But I don't.
For those that maybe don't know, great MMA history factoid. Go watch. Type in like Georges St. Pierre Savant kickboxer, and watch those clips from The Ultimate Fighter.
Oh, when the drunk dude came in and started messing them all
Georges
up.
St. Pierre brought in like clearly overweight Savant fighter from France, like legit from France.
But he was a Muay Thai fighter, I think.
No, he was Savant.
I thought he was I thought he was a guy had some Savant training, but he was a Muay Thai guy, and he just smoked everybody when he was hungover.
I'm like 90% sure it's Savant.
Okay,
I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that because
sweeps and
he
everything.
He was French. But
he was French.
But if you do any sort of kickboxing, you do also do Muay Thai. Like if you're in France, like if you're like near Belgium, you're doing Muay Thai and other sort of variations of kickboxing as well, because like that's just how you make money. You don't just do kickboxing. Like a lot of kickboxers in that area also have like Muay Thai records as well. Right. But he came in there drunk as fuck, overweight, and just fucked up these fighters.
I remember it
was so good.
Just this image of Michael Johnson getting swept out of his mind.
Bad.
And it was just like, oh God, that was ugly.
God.
Yeah.
It was good. But anyway, it's digressing. France has always been behind the ball in combat sports, so it's not shocking they're behind the ball in terms of MMA. But I'll be honest, I thought they already legalized MMA.
Yeah, I mean, but it's supposed to take place. I think it takes effect start the new year.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, why push back? If this is already something that they're legalizing and is moving through, and all it's going to do is bring money and give opportunities to athletes in your country, but business opportunities too, just generating money beyond having events. MMA gyms popping up that are going to feed into the economy. It's just outdated, nonsensical bullshit. And the French people, the Judo Association, and the sports minister, get with the fucking times. Like, just knuckleheads.
Damn, hot takes at France.
Yeah,
I feel attacked here, man.
I enjoyed France on my honeymoon, but
Viva France. I'm French, so the only reason I'm doing that shit.
I thought you were Portuguese or something.
I'm European as fuck. Imagine every colonist nation. I'm that.
Yeah, I'm still surprised that you're a white dude. I'm still kind of shocked by that.
Literally named just all of Western Europe. Yes. That's me. Like, just go down that list. Like, exclude like the Scandinavian shits.
I
but
called
like
you Pedro.
Shout out to Brad. Last topic of the night. Let's talk about UFC on ESPN 7. Anytime. Overeem versus
Rosenstruck.
Yeah, that seems too easy.
I think
that seems too easy.
The thing is, you just got to say it with confidence and just roll with it. So Rosenstruck.
Okay. Overeem versus Rosenstruck on happening in DC. You're a former area.
Yeah, that's my hometown. Like this is actually, it's interesting to me right here, just on a personal note, because I always said that when the UFC came back to DC, the only other time they've been in DC proper, I was at that event. That was actually the first live UFC event I attended. Dominic Cruz defended his title against Demetrius Johnson.
Is that the last time they've been in DC?
The one and only time they've been in DC. They've been in the DC area. They've been to Fairfax, Virginia. I was at one of those fights. It was they had Gray Maynard and Nate Diaz had a main event there. I was at the Korean Zombie and Dustin Poirier. I want to say, was it Chad Mendez and Clay Guida? Did they have a main event?
I remember Fairfax being an event a place they went to a lot.
And that was where Alan Quinta got that garbage decision over Masvidal and cussed out the crowd. Yeah, it was on that card. So
I think so.
So yeah, and then they had the John Jones fight in Baltimore. I believe that was 172. Jones
how
and
far of a
Teixeira.
drive is Baltimore and DC from each other?
Like half hour.
Okay, not too bad.
Yeah, so it's same. They feel like different worlds essentially, but very, very close proximity. So like I always said that when the UFC came back to DC, I would use it as an excuse to go visit family.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I love being at an event, covering it live way back when I used to do that. And like, I would, and I would be there, and you know, my family get to see me work, and then I get to see family.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and,
two birds, one stone.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be pretty dope. But you know, my son's about to be born in a couple weeks, and I'm, you know, I can't leave town. I got to make sure my wife is good. So,
and you know, I mean, what outlet are you gonna go?
Well,
with?
actually, you know, I would if I was already credentialed, then you know, I would have already. That was I would have already.
Jason isn't driving down for this one to cover it, or they have no one in DC.
No one in DC.
Because you know they'd have no fights there. Why would you?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
exactly.
honestly.
Like I don't know if Jason is driving down. If so, he's only going to be there for like the fight. I doubt he'll be there for the media stuff, because the media stuff started today. Actually.
Oh yeah, I would assume.
Yeah, the open workers I think were today. Excuse me. This isn't the best card in the world, but it is some sneaky stuff on here.
There is, and there's some notable fighters.
Yeah, the main event, obviously, and very unfortunate circumstances that Rosenstruck is in there, because this was originally Walt Harris's fight.
Yeah.
So peace, love,
Always.
condolences to that clan right there.
An extremely rough story.
But as far as some of the other matchups on this, Rob Font versus Ricky Simone, that sounds like a dope fight right there. I'm curious about that for two reasons. One, Ricky Simone coming off of that upset loss to Uriah Faber. I wonder what he's going to look like in the bounce back. Rob Font is also a guy who consistently puts on exciting fights. One of the guys with better hands in the division as well. I always enjoy watching him. Cody Stamen and Yadong Song should be a good fight. Also, it's by the names, it's like a cockfight. But the
Thiago Alves to me is a fight that was relevant a decade ago, but hey, I'm still here for it.
It would have been barely relevant a decade ago, but man, it's a fight that because
it would have.
No, well, for Alves, but Tim Means was never a guy who broke through the top 15 essentially. So, but still,
he had a moment like 2012.
As much of a fight as meaningless as this fight is in terms of what it means, this is nowhere even in the stratosphere of titles, nowhere in the stratosphere of top 5, top 10, not even top 15. But I'm kind of up for this one, man.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm kind of feeling this fight.
It's a throwback fight.
Yeah,
throwback
it is.
names, like it makes sense. Yeah. Aspen Ladd versus Yana Kunitskaya.
That should be a dope one.
I mean, if Aspen Ladd didn't lose her last fight, she'd obviously be closer to title shot.
Yeah, she'd be in Jermaine Duranamy's place at 245.
Absolutely, in my opinion. Stefan Struve, Ben Rothwell. One of those heavyweight fights, because I am a huge Stefan Struve fan.
Yeah,
as a relatively tall guy in his weight class, that kind of had to adjust.
The tallest guy ever.
No, I meant like for me. I'm talking about me right now, because like for my weight class, I was a tall guy with
really.
Length.
What weight class are you?
I'm like 130, 126, bro.
Okay.
And I'm 5'9", so I'm a tall guy. So
5'9"?
Yes,
we're the same height.
Well, yeah, you're wearing pumps on right now, bro.
Pumps? What the?
Sorry, your Timbs are on, man. I'm sorry.
These are Nike boots, actually. In DC, we wear Nike boots, but.
Oh, really? Is that
yeah,
okay.
DC is a Nike boots town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, so if you pulled up with Tim's in DC, like you'd be like somebody.
No,
like,
no,
what the
you
fuck?
can wear Tim's, but no, everybody got Nike boots. That's
Okay.
sort of the standard.
Anyways, digressing. I've always loved seeing like tall, rangy fighters fight. Like that's just usually how I am. Like if you look at some of the fighters I've liked and I've propped up on this show, you can kind of see that. Stefan Struve is one of those guys I've always liked because he's that tall, rangy guy in the division. But he just never
doesn't know how to use that range.
It. Yeah, and there's been moments where he does.
Yeah, it's been one moment really, and that was Stipe Miocic.
It was such a great moment.
It was a fantastic moment. But here's the thing. This
coming out of retirement.
Coming out of his 3-day retirement. How
long has it been though? Like
it's been like maybe 6 months.
He fought this year.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, maybe 6 months. I think just barely 6 months or something like that. Like so he retired. He sat down on the couch, played some Xbox for 3 weeks, got bored, and said, "You know what? I'm coming out of retirement." That's essentially what happened here. This fight is either going to be really good or it's going to be horrifically bad. Yeah, horrifically bad.
It's heavyweight MMA. Or heavyweight period in combat
Yeah.
sports. Like
And Ben Rothwell and Stefan Struve have put on some masterful, very entertaining performances, and they've had their fair share of just severe stinkers. And it's a mixed bag. I don't know what we're gonna get here.
Cynthia Cavallo versus Marina Rodriguez, also a really good fight. Marina Rodriguez coming off of that win against Tisha Torres, and who else? Jessica Aguilar?
I think so.
Good couple wins there.
Yeah, definitely good wins.
Undefeated name. Strawweight right now is just packed with talent.
Yeah, that's such a great division.
I love it. That's about it for the card, though. Not a lot, to be honest about.
Yeah,
Like, there's not even like a real fight though. I'm like, ooh, that's what I'm really excited for. It's like maybe Stamen Yadong, but that's about it.
This has the feel of a card that watching it probably will be really entertaining, but the consequences of it will not be felt after the event
or feel like homework. To be honest,
yeah,
it's one or the other.
Yeah, it's going to be an extreme thing.
And in a night or a day where we also have Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz.
Yeah, earlier in the day, so at least they won't overlap.
We also have Jamal Charlo, Dennis Hogan on Showtime. It's gonna be interesting to see what I pick to cover.
I'll watch Ruiz Joshua since it's earlier in the day, but
I'm assuming you're just gonna stay after the show on Saturday morning, right?
Yeah. I'll probably
watch
just
the AJ fight.
Just watch that, and then we could pod off that. But
pot it up.
Yeah, we'll pot it up.
Potting it up right now, guys.
But then I got my day job's holiday party.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do that tonight. So I'll catch up on the UFC event later. I'm not missing free booze for Lad versus Kunitskaya as much as I do like that fight.
It is a good fight. I like the Cavallo Rodriguez fight a lot. Again, like Struve Rothwell, like that's a fight even like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Super relevant in the heavyweight division. Less so nowadays, it seems. But digressing, guys, hit the like button, share the show, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. You know what to do. Patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. I am Matt, the Hipster Hunter. You can find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all social media platforms. Anthony Walker.
You can find me on Twitter at AntWalkerMMA. You can find my Instagram also under the same name. I don't post much, but just follow me anyway. Then the Walkout Network, my YouTube channel. Right now, the only place where you can find the work of Ant Walker. So
free agent, ladies and gentlemen.
Check that out. Yeah. So yeah, man. Shout out to everybody, man. It's been throwing out support. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on, as always.
Oh, yeah, of course, man.
You come on so much, like you're in our description now of the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what's up.
I need to update it, though.
Why would you do that? I'll make it so much better.
But no, I need to update it. You know why? Because
Anthony
Walker, Bear Dog. I'm like,
no,
it's all
good.
Guys, move the R around, add an L and a Y. I'm good. But digressing, guys, have a great day, great night, great evening, wherever you are. We'll be back Saturday morning for an MMA show with a huge panel. You, James Lynch, Matthew Wells from Slip and Dip Podcast, Benjamin Duffy, maybe.
Jumping on it?
I don't know. The thing is, Burgos hit me up so late that I kind of had a cutoff point. But Ben Duffy hit me up and said, yeah, I'm going to be at a Starbucks. I'm like, Ben, we got to talk here, man. You don't know how much of an audio snob I am. That might not work for me.
Yeah. Oscar was upset that he wasn't asked for this one.
I know Oscar doesn't really do podcasts.
No, he was on my show.
Yeah, but he kind of did your show, and like you're like his best friend. So I didn't know if like that was like a, sort of like a gimme. Like, hey man, like
he was personally offended. He told me today.
Did he? Oh my god.
No, he wasn't. No, he was joking, but he was like this all-star panel. How could it not include me? So and he said it with that accent too. So.
And it also depends on the software because I don't know how many people I can have at the same time.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be here.
That's true.
So that saves one spot. What time we starting?
9 a.m.
Motherfucker.
In the morning.
All right. Coffee on deck, man.
You know me. I always have coffee.
Oh yeah, that's true. I
always got coffee. But yes, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Giant panel show. Jay Petrie going to be on the show as well. Cole Shelton, BJPen.com as well. A lot of people going to be on the show. Should be fun. And maybe some other ones that slip in there because people might drop out.
Because they were personally offended by not being selected the first time.
I feel so bad now. You know me, man. Like I get really.
Oh, he was messing around.
I know he's messing, but I still feel bad. Anyways, guys, have a great day, great evening, wherever you are. Peace.
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
That's fucking illegal.
You know, they're selling y'all wolf tickets, people. You eat them right up.
Fuck that shit. Fuck boxing. Fuck boxing.
You're the only person that says that.